Welcome back, everyone. News. Yes, news has happened. Activision-Blizzard has raised more than a few eyebrows, as they seemingly love to do these days. We've also got some big sales, and Nintendo blasting consumers very hard with FOMO to the degree where it feels kind of scummy. A whole bunch of quickfire stories, and even timelines on Bungie's new IP, and a whole bunch more. And speaking of more, if you'd like more, hit up the daily briefing over at Patreon, because each weekday there, we drop the day's gaming news straight into your inbox. It's as simple as that, easy way to be on top of everything, and that is on top of all the rest we do on Patreon. So, thank you for your support. With that said, let's roll. Alright, time for a real corporate thrill, because Activision-Blizzard has made some corporate hires, and they're ones that have raised eyebrows. They've resulted in a news cycle, so here we are. First, we've got Brian Bellato, who has been hired as the Chief Administrative Officer. Now, this was announced quietly via an internal email from Bobby, which is very much unlike the more public announcements of, the other job changes we'll cover. Why is that? Well, okay. We can all, I think, agree that the Trump administration was a dramatic one. Now, I refuse to get involved in USA politics here, not my country, etc., etc. But what we can all, I think, see is why they would rather keep that to be a hushed-up thing. Not that keeping it hush-hush worked, because multiple gaming outlets have been, very loudly reporting on the hiring of Brian. So Brian was the Undersecretary of State of Management, and he was working directly under Mike Pompeo, who, I don't really know about the situation, but he certainly appears to be a figure that draws some very strong opinions. Now, before that, he was the COO of the CIA. He's a vet, and in the press coverage, they're at least calling him Pompeo's attack dog and saying that he's a bully. Now, for my analysis and stuff like that here, I think we all know why the game's press are particularly harsh on this one, right? I would say that if it is true that this guy is a bully and an attack dog, then obviously, ouch. That is a terrible look, and you should not be a bully and attack dog at work. Now, that said, I would also say that I'd imagine somebody with, the CIA and Army experience, that those things would certainly help forge somebody to be an effective leader. That said, being an attack dog and bully is not effective leadership. So you can see that there are some pros here and some cons. Now, he's going to be overseeing the Call of Duty Endowment, which is the non-profit that they run to help vets, which seems like a decent fit for him. Plus, he is going to have key functions and responsibilities across the company. Our man Bobby said that he is a perfect fit. And you know what? I can actually see that for the Activision side. They're a bit closer to, the United States Army and things like that via Call of Duty. Obviously, this guy's a vet. He's working in the Call of Duty Endowment, which is a veterans charity. So you can see all that making sense. Much less so on the Blizzard side. Right? I think that a lot of Blizzard employees will be very unhappy at this. Now, will this impact us, the gamers? I'd say absolutely not directly. But it is a bad look to many people depending on their political leanings. That is, I think, certainly the case. Now, you could say that that could harm their ability to attract a wide talent pool. Because, you could have somebody who's an incredible programmer, designer, artist, whatever, who has got very different political views, and if you've got somebody who is seen as a partisan figure being in a major enough role at the company, then obviously you could see that talent being pushed away. And then I guess the other thing is that they've also kind of re-reported on Bobby Kotick's financial contributions to political parties, which I believe is generally skewed Republican, so that is something that, again, in the American political climate, could, attract some staff, or could very much push away a bunch of other staff. I'd say especially staff who would be in the Blizzard Entertainment sort of catchment, based on how, Blizzard sort of project themselves publicly. So that's going on. Now, beyond that, they've also promoted a company vet to their CFO, replacing Dennis Durkin, and this new guy, Daniel Tsay, is the new general manager of Call of Duty Esports. Now, that probably is a good thing, because Activision-Blizzard, as we know, has taken fire for its esports efforts, and Daniel actually seems to have a good track record with the NBA 2K League. Now, the thing that's telling here is that both of these guys got public press releases, but Brian only got an internal email, so clearly Activision-Blizzard knew that there would be a bit of controversy on this one. That's essentially the story. It's a story that I don't think is massively important to the average consumer of games, but it has just blown up in the press, so I thought it'd be worth covering it. Hopefully I did a decent enough job of keeping it reasonable. Next up, we've got great news because Hello Games are really churning out the updates for No Man's Sky. Man, they are trying to earn back people's trust and respect, and they're certainly doing a good job. The pet-themed Companions update came out 6 weeks ago, and this week, the new Expeditions update has went live. I'll tell you what, it looks pretty awesome. It's essentially meant to shake up the player experience, especially multiplayer, with expeditions that arm players with a wild and varied assortment, they say, of ships, weapons, mods, gadgets, all that stuff, and it dumps everybody onto the same planet. And basically, you plot a phased course across the galaxy, complete with challenges and stuff like that. So essentially, it seems like the idea is heading off on a big space road trip with your friends. You know what? That sounds great. Bungie news. So, Bungie's new IP is targeting a 2025 release date. Is that potentially hype? I'd say I think so. I mean, man, Destiny 2, I certainly have my issues with it, but I can't deny that it plays so damn good. So the studio's design director briefly touched on the existence of this new IP in an interview with 4gamer.net. There's not much in terms of details. He just said they are working on a secret new world parallel with Destiny, and they are looking firmly at 2025. Now, from what I understand, this was kicked off after they secured a large investment round from NetEase, which, I mean, look, it's neat. There's a new IP going there. Obviously, NetEase, there will be a lot of suspicion and worry there that I think is going on with NetEase and Tencent throughout a lot of consumers. I'd say there that NetEase and Tencent are just investing everywhere. It seems to me that they want to invest, tactically or strategically even in a bunch of Western devs so that they can basically just capture the entire gaming market growing. Seems like that's what they're doing. Now, as for this, it does give Bungie a bit more freedom and independence because whatever this new IP is, it seems like it's going to be self-published and a bit of a fresh start. Destiny 1 and 2, of course, as we know, they were greatly hurt by their launches and their DLC plans, and there was a bunch there that was mandated basically by Activision. I mean, you could see how thrilled the staff were to be free from Activision. Just a lot of their plans for, like, the DLCs, the updates, basically having to have a certain amount of like big annual releases, stuff like that didn't actually mesh with the live service game and felt a bit weird and traditional. That was a lot coming from Activision, so it's no surprise that they changed the entire development plan for D2 once they split with Activision. So you know what? Bungie actually getting a clear shot to do a new IP independently? Yeah, I think that would be great. So count me as tentatively excited. Okay, sales time. So Super Mario 3D All-Stars is being delisted March 31st, and this has led to a 267% spike in sales, at least for UK physical. And this is while Nintendo have been really trying to double down that, yeah, it's being delisted at the end of, like, March 31st, which means it's, I guess, now gone. And that's all odd. Now, it's a great deal, it would seem. I mean, it's Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy all in one. Sounds great, doesn't it? But the whole situation is strange. Or is it strange? Could it make sense? It could. So Vice have came forward, and according to somebody that they talked to, a developer, and that developer themselves talked to Nintendo, and according to them, it's just flat out a drive for FOMO sales, right? FOMO, fear of missing out. They're just leveraging that to get a whole bunch of sales right the hell now. And I mean, I could see it working. I mean, I've got a Switch, barely use the thing, but I've not really played those games because I was more of an Age of Empires and Total War person as a kid. Yet still, I'm sitting here thinking, oh, I really wish I got that because I would like to play it on a Switch Pro whenever that eventually happens. But you can't. Frustratingly anti-consumer, right? And it's just a bit of an odd way to slice up their content and remove it from sale. I guess knowing that whenever they put that stuff back on sale in some sort of package, it'll do super well. So, scumbag move. Now, another sales update, but a good one. Capcom, they're going from strength to strength, where Monster Hunter Rise shipped 4 million copies. I mean, that is super quick, and it sent their stock to an all-time high. Now, they did tell their investors of an expected 20% rise in operating income because of Rise's really strong pre-orders, and it very much seems like that stuff is bearing out in reality. What's more then is they've of course got Village in May for the Resi series, and Monster Hunter Stories 2 in July, so they're going from strength to strength, and it's almost entirely based off just making really bloody good games that are fair and simple and that people like. Speaking of games that people like, well, Jeff Grubb says that Remedy is going to be collabing with Epic on Alan Wake 2. But there's more to this story than just Alan Wake 2. So, according to Jeff, Alan Wake 2 is in the works, and Remedy are going to be working with Epic. Jeff actually says that there was a big old bidding war over what was going on with this IP, but that ultimately Epic won out and had the best deal. Now, that deal is a part of their Epic Games Initiative, which is basically an initiative to fund a whole bunch of games, like fund them into existence. And this is apparently in response to The Lot of Us, which is interesting. So remember when we all pretty much dogpiled on them for scummy exclusives to the point where they were just buying exclusivity of games that were basically already done. They were even grabbing up Kickstarter games where people had kickstarted, well, based on Steam being an announced platform, and then Epic taking that away. You know, and we basically, I think the general consensus was that exclusives for their platform would only really feel fair and reasonable to consumers if Epic themselves were bankrolling those projects into existence from the ground up. Well, it seems like that's what Epic might actually be doing as a part of this new strategy, and that is great. That is the type of exclusive that I'm perfectly happy with. Of course, the Alan Wake franchise, or the Alan Wake universe, featured heavily in Control, right? So that's pretty neat. That certainly hyped people up that Control and Alan Wake are in the same universe. I've actually never played either, but I really do want to change that. I've always heard great things, so I guess the endless list of video games grows. But it's nice to know that as I jump into those games, there's seemingly more on the horizon. Next up, some more Activision-Blizzard oddness, where new leaks have confirmed that the Warzone, the new map, is going to be an 80s version of Verdansk that's essentially just going to evolve the current one, which has led to some people just being disappointed, because the teasing to some people suggests that it would be a bit more exciting, and I guess in a world where Apex Legends does a lot with its map updates, you could see the disappointment. Now, what's really not good is Activision being seemingly furious enough at these leaks to DMCA take down the Twitter account of VGC, it's Video Game Chronicle, they're great by the way, and Andy Robinson, which is kind of wild, I mean, just for reporting the news. So, yeah, that's a pretty bad look. Now, for Warzone, it's been having a rocky time all over. This is the Cold War-themed map rework that apparently has been delayed for the past 5 months. You would have expected the Cold War map to come out with Cold War. And then there was also just a bunch of weird balance concerns in the moving over of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War weapons into Warzone, from what I understand, was pretty awkward. And then another new map was designed and implemented in the sort of wrong engine for Cold War's Zombie Outbreak mode, where perhaps the Outbreak map has actually been held back for the release of Vanguard. Maybe that's speculation, but there's oddness there that doesn't bode that well. Plus, people have noticed that Modern Warfare 2019 is gone-ish. You can still play it, of course, but they basically wallpapered over its Battle.net launcher icon in a really, really strange way. When I hit on my BNet account that owns Modern Warfare 19, when I hit all games, it's not there anymore. COD Blops 4 is there, but Modern Warfare isn't. Instead, Warzone now says Warzone Modern Warfare as one icon. It can be accessed, but it's very strange that they're trying to make it hard for people to, I guess, access that game. And the whole thing's especially odd because they just dropped 3 maps into Modern Warfare without telling anyone. So strange. And it kind of just says to me that this blended Call of Duty strategy could be a recipe, well, I guess for confusion, because what's going on is confusing, and it's going to be even more confusing when we get a bunch of World War II weapons going into Warzone, where I guess Warzone will have an 80s themed map, and who knows? Confusion, that's the point. Quick fire time then. So, Sony has dissolved their Japan studio and absorbed it into Sony Worldwide Studios. Which could seem odd, and what is, I think, unfortunate is that as a part of this, some talent is gone, including the creative director of the Demon's Souls remaster. Which seems rough that you would let somebody who was quite majorly behind a super successful release like that go. Hard to say what's going on there. It just seems a bit rough to lose people like that, so odd. Now, staying in Japan, a Famitsu editor has been arrested for fraud. And this is a wild one, so he was in charge of editing freelancer articles. Turns out including freelance articles that he himself wrote under a pseudonym and then presumably greenlit and edited himself. All such that he could get another $3,650 on top of his salary. A bit weird, obvious conflict of interest. The guy is claiming that he was just in a rough financial spot, so I mean, fair enough trying to have some hustle to get yourself out of that, but also big conflict of interest. That's obviously the wrong move to make, and well, he's now been arrested for fraud, so we all know how that pans out. Now, moving over to the West, BioWare's Jonathan Warner, the director of the canned Anthem reboot, is leaving the company after 10 years. So, no surprises there, but, I mean, it's a bit rough for BioWare with so many big names leaving. Still, I'm cautiously optimistic that it's went so bad that it may have to go good because, you know, Respawn have came into the EA fold and seemingly taught them how to actually do things well. And if that can mean that my next Mass Effect game will be good, then maybe I'll be naive and hold out just a little smidge of hope. Next then, 505 Games have actually purchased the Ghost Runner IP for a cool $5 million. Now this is a natural enough advancement since 505 actually collaborated with the developer on the game's initial release, where apparently they'd actually wanted to buy it a while back, but they couldn't reach a mutually beneficial deal. So it's interesting the deal has now happened. I've got to wonder if it being a $5 million deal has got anything to do with that. So maybe they sweetened the pot on whatever they initially had. But still, Ghost Runner itself was a real big success. It actually recouped its dev costs in a day. I think that's how you know you're doing well. And it's actually got DLC and next-gen version all coming this year. So good stuff for them. And finally, one of the weirder stories this week was actually Sega accusing SteamDB of supporting distributing pirated copies of Yakuza Like a Dragon. Which is a bit odd because Sega responded by saying, oh, turns out it was just a mistake. Who knows? I guess shit happens when you're a large corporation and the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. And that's it. I couldn't think of a nifty segue for the end of the show, so that's it. The show's over. If you'd like to support us and get the daily briefing, then you can check out that Patreon link down below. If not, there's other videos on the channel, and of course, if you're interested in Warcraft stuff, you can check out the Bellular Clips channel, as well as our Warcraft channel. That's it for me. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.